Already we have a Dvar Malchut that the Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke in 1991 on the last days of the month of Sivan, Kavchet Sivan. Now, Kavchet Sivan is a very important date in Chabad and consequently for the whole world. So let's just put everything in proper perspective over here, as we've done so many times, but we can do it again. The Jewish people are God's chosen people. They were chosen by God to improve the world, to bring blessing to the whole world. First of all, to educate the non-Jews. I mean, first of all, to educate themselves. But after what they were chosen for, to educate the non-Jews, the whole world should know how much God loves them, that God is creating them. God is enlivening them. God is providing for them. God hears their prayers. God protects them. Melech, Ozer, Moshiach, Mogen. In other words, to change the whole world. That was the work that God gave to Abraham. Abraham, he called him Avraham, the father of all nations. Abraham's job was supposed to be to educate the whole world about what he discovered, how infinitely far the Creator is from us, and how infinitely close he is to us. He's creating us and he cares about us, cares about everybody. Okay, this Abraham, of course, he began this process. When the Jews got out of Egypt, that was step number 2 in the process. They received the Torah. They built a temple, 2 temples. That could have been the end of the process, the whole world, but the Jews couldn't maintain this responsibility. And so we're waiting for Moshiach. Moshiach is supposed to be, is a Jew that's going to, first of all, fix up the Jewish people, bring them all back to their true Jewish identity, doing the Torah, doing the commandments. He'll build a temple, bring all the Jews to Israel, to do the commandments, because without the temple, he can't do the commandments. Without being in Israel, he can't do the commandments. And all the Jewish people will want to do the commandments. That's going to be the main thing. But also, he's going to convince all of the non-Jews. He's going to influence all of the non-Jews in the world. How many are there now? 9 billion. There should be 20 billion. Because each one is a gift from God, a miracle. And to convince them that they're exactly that every human being is a gift from God, every human being is a miracle. But this implies that the Jews have to sort of go out of their isolation and their insulation and go into the world. Okay, now, this is going to be done by Mashiach. The Rebbes of Chabad, they are the Mashiach of every generation. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said it many times. Every generation has to have someone that's fitting to be the Mashiach of their generation. In the Gemara, it says that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was such a person. Before that, there was King Chezkiyahu, all the prophecies of Isaiah that talk about a son is born, and that's talking about the King Chezkiyahu. He was supposed to be the Mashiach. For whatever reasons it didn't pan out. Even King Solomon could have been the Mashiach if he didn't. But anyway, all the Rebbes of Chabad, they are the Mashiach of their generation. And their goal is, the Or HaChaim HaKodesh, he was the Mashiach. Their goal is, and the Maimonides sets it clearly, their goal is to bring all the Jewish people back to Torah and the commandments, fight the battles of God. But in order to do this, like I say, they have to go out of their holiness a little bit into the world. This started in a really big way on this date of Kavchet Sivan. Kavchet Sivan, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, here, Lubavitcher Rebbe, you have a picture of him, right? Everybody knows the picture. The Lubavitcher Rebbe left Europe. The war was already raging, right? The Nazis already attacked Poland and this conquered. And the Rebbe at that time was living in France. The Germans attacked France. I think they even defeated. I have to look at this. Anyway, the Rebbe managed somehow or other to get to Portugal. From Portugal, they took a boat to America. The Nazis shot, the submarines shot a couple times at the torpedoes at the boat that they were on. And they made it, miraculously made it. When did he make it to America? On the 28th day of Sivan. 28th day of Sivan. So this day is reckoned as the day when the teachings of the Moshiach came in big force, full force, into America, which is called the bottom part of the world. The top part of the world, that's where the Torah was given in Israel and also all the countries that are around in Europe and everything. And the bottom part, that's in America. That's what it's called. So in other words, this really began the process of spreading Judaism all over, especially in those days. New York was basically the center of the world. New York, right? New York was tremendously, it was populous and it was a commercial center. New York. Now the Rebbe's father-in-law, who at that time he was the Rebbe, he moved there also like a year previously. He got out of Poland. He escaped when the Germans attacked Poland. He was there in the bombing of Warsaw, and they somehow or other got him out. That was a whole story in itself. But he also came to America. When he came to America, he was already paralyzed. He came to America in a wheelchair. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Yosef Yitzchak. Picture. But the one that was going to carry, practically speaking, he defeated communism. We only saw communism fall 70 years later, but he predicted that that's what was going to be. So, but the one that really took over the reins, and the one who is the Mashiach now, is the Lubavitcher Rebbe today. Of course, you can ask a question. One second, the Lubavitcher Rebbe died. You can't have Mashiach that died, right? Wrong. There's nowhere in the whole Torah that it says, and anywhere, in any law book or anywhere, that you can't, Mashiach can't come from the dead. It says clearly that he can. It says, the Rambam says that the Mashiach was killed. If he was killed, which seems to imply like Bar Kochava, he was killed because of his sins. That's what he says. But dying doesn't, exactly the opposite. It says in the Talmud that the Mashiach is going to come from the dead. It'll be somebody like Daniel, it says. And in the end of the book of Daniel, it says that Mashiach is going to be hidden for 45 years and he'll come back to the living. And there's a lot you can see. I have a whole essay about it. But it doesn't have, Mashiach doesn't have to come from the dead, even though it seems from the Arizal that he does have to come from the dead. But it doesn't, but nevertheless, it's not ruled out. Okay, what it means death by a tzaddik is also not the same thing as when normal Jews die. Not exactly the same thing. But we see by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there comes like 500,000 people every year to see him on Lag BaOmer the day he passed away, and he passed away like 1,700 years ago. Okay, let's go. So this is the day that the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, came to America, Kaf Chet Sivan, the end of the month of Sivan. The month of Sivan is the month when we receive the Torah, right? Receive the Torah. And this, of course, happened 3,300 and whatever years ago. Late afterwards, the Rebbe came to America. The Rebbe is the King Moshiach, and the Rebbe came to America. This is the beginning of spreading out these ideas about God that we just finished learning, and how precious and important every human being is in God's eyes, spreading these ideas out in America. And of course, it's very difficult. That doesn't happen in 1 second. This was 50 years. This, when the Rebbe spoke Tafshin Nun Aleph, this was 50 years from the time that the Rebbe and his wife got saved from Europe, and the Nazis attacked. Okay, so the Rebbe spoke, and he said like this: Inyan miyuchad shel Yom Zakai. The special thing about the special day, shekol hayom, the whole day is called a special day. Yom Zakai. It's called a special day. Okay, how do you say a blessed day, lucky day? Because of Dvar Tov, because of some good thing that happened in this day. Even if though that this good thing that happened one time, a long time ago, it happened in the beginning of the day or the end of the day, but nevertheless it hints at the name of the day and the number of the day. The name of the day is the month, Sivan. The number is 28. The 28th day of Sivan, that's the letters Koach, power. Now again, just to remind everyone, the idea of Mashiach is to teach, educate the whole world about what God is and how much God loves everyone and how much potential everyone has and how much God empowers every human being to bring out this potential according to the Torah. So this is a very special day. This is a day which contains power for every human being in the world. And so it's not just by accident that it came out on the 28th. The 28th is Chaf Hey, is Koach, power. This month shows on the power of the whole month. Kaf Ches Sivan, the 28th day of Sivan, stresses the power of this month. It's the third month. Shebmit Yached B'kach Shehu Achodesh, the Matan Torah. This was the third month from when the Jews got the Torah, got out of Egypt. So they got out of Egypt in the first month. They went through the desert approaching Mount Sinai in the second month. That's also the month of Iyar. And then the third month is when they received the Torah. Namely, that this is a special day of the Koach, power of Sivan, shows on the power of the giving of the Torah. What's the power of the giving of the Torah? To change the whole world, transform the whole world. Torah is not just a book for the Jews to keep us going, that we can survive. The Torah is a book to change the whole entire world. It's like it says hinted also at the number Koach. Koach means it's a true power. This is tied to the number 3. B'talat zimnei ave chazaka. 3 times is what's called a chazaka. Like it says, Malchut meshulash lo b'meira yinatek. It says that a string which is woven from 3 strands won't break very quickly. Shlosha, the number 3, this shows at the third, this is the third month, shows on something that's going to be eternal. Number 3. Not too much to the right, not too much to the left. All 3 together, right, left, center, joined together. A koach, the Dvar shel kayama. This is the power of a permanent thing. Tachlit hashleimut hakoach, the ultimate idea of power. But we have powerful nations, the Babylonians, the Persians, etc. They took over the whole world. Tremendous power, the Greeks, the Romans, and that's it. Lasted for a while. The power of the Torah is an eternal power. Also, the number Kaf Ches is 28. This is 3 times 3 times 3. Right? 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3. 9 times 3 is 27. And when did this 27 come to completion? On 28. That wraps them all up together. That is the power after the completion of 3 times 3 times 3. So we say 3 is power. 3 times 3 is more power. 3 times 3 times 3 is more power. And the day after that, it it concludes and includes all of the power of these previous days. Power. Okay, again, so what do you need power for? You have to have power in order to make changes in the world. We're here to change the world. The power to make the ultimate change in the world comes from the Torah. If things are done according to the Torah, then it's tremendously powerful and even eternal. And that's one reason why we see that the Torah is eternal, despite all the efforts of its detractors and its enemies. Just like the Jewish people are eternal, despite all the efforts of its detractors and enemies. Here we are. And all the enemies are gone. They've been replaced by others. We can say, this is one of the reasons why the giving of the Torah was in the third month. This is connected to the number 3. Like the rabbis say, Brich Marachmana, blessed is God. They have a right to Talisi that he gave the triple Torah. Torah and Nevi'im Ketuvim, 3. The triple nation. Triple nation is Kohanim, Levites, and Israelites. By means of Talitai, by means of the third. The third is Moses. There was Aaron and Miriam and Moses. He was the third one to be born. B'yarcha Talitai in the third month. The third month is, like we said before, Sivan. And Rav Nisim Gaon, he counts old things, what is number 3 in connection to the giving of the Torah. By means of giving of the Torah, there is power. Power to the Jewish people. And to the whole entire creation. Can you do it like it's known? There's a whole movement in the world. I mean, if you think about it for a second, it makes no sense. But if you think about it a little deeper, it does make sense. And that the world doesn't exist. Nothing really exists. There's no reality. No reality whatsoever. They learned this from quantum physics. In any case, it doesn't make any difference. The world doesn't exist. There's no reality. Okay, you can say that's the most stupid thing in the world. So if there's no reality, it means that also you're not real, so your opinion is not real, right? Okay, let's say there's an answer. But the fact of the matter is they've got a good point. If there's no God that's creating the world, then the basis of the world is the world. The world is based on itself. There can't be a thing like that. So what's the source of the truth of the world? The world itself. Why does the world exist? Because the world exists. That's ridiculous. So they've got a good point that the world doesn't exist, because if you get down to the basic of everything is nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's not. Like I say, it's pretty stupid if you think about it, and it's self-contradicting. But on the other hand, there is a basis. There's a basis for such a thing, because if there's no creator, then it means the creation has no real foundation of existence. There's no, what is it made of? It's made of something that just always existed. Could be, that's what the Greeks said. But here we're saying no, that koach, the power to keep the world in creation, is the fact that there's a creator, and the creator is creating everything with a reason. That's what the Torah is. So it gives power and stability to the whole entire creation. Because if you say that there's no creator, then you can be like the Nazis, right? It says that they went out to kill or to get killed. They didn't care if they blew up the whole world. It made absolutely no difference to them, right? If you have these suicide bombers from the Muslims, right? They don't care if they blew up if they could put a bomb in the middle of the world and blow the whole thing up. That would be ideal for them. The believers would go to heaven. The non-believers would go to hell. Best thing in the world. In other words, without a real God that's creating everything all the time, so everything is worthless, basically. Right? It's basically nothing, worthless. Nothing. We're saying in Judaism, no, that's worthless. It's also weak. The existence of the world is weak. But if we say that there's a creator, and the creator is creating everyone, and the creator is creating everyone for a purpose. So this is a very, very difficult and almost absurd idea, but it's true. And when a person really feels this, so he feels that life is bigger than me. Reality is bigger than my mind. Existence is bigger than my feelings. Suddenly he feels that God is infinitely more real and good than anything I could possibly imagine, and that God is creating me from that good. That's the power, that's koach. That's when God gave the Torah, he gave power to the whole entire creation. And that's what God wants. And when God gave the Torah in Mount Sinai, it was power to draw down, reveal godliness into the world. the world, this physical world, this lower world, that there's nothing below it until the world will be totally permeated, the world and its inside, and everyone will realize that the world is holy. The world is a creation of God, and they'll act accordingly. Adarab, exactly the opposite. The Torah that was given on Mount Sinai was davka ba'olam hazeh tachton, in this physical world. The Torah was not given to the angels. It was given to us people in this world, that we have all our crazy desires and destructive urges and impulses. The Torah was given in this physical world, that there's nothing lower than it. Until, like it says, the Lo B'Shamayim, that God even put the whole Torah in our hands. Because the main power of godliness is recognized only in this physical world. In this physical world, that there's nothing below it. By means of what? Our serving God with our free will. This causes, when we do this, gives God pleasure. And it draws down God's essence, until by means of elevating the lowest worlds, this lifts up the whole entire building, right? Like you want to lift up a building, so you put a jack or whatever it is under the bottom of it, the foundation, and then you can lift the whole thing up. You don't try to lift it up from the roof. We're down here in the bottom, we're on the foundation, the lowest of the lowest levels. When we do what God wants, it elevates everything, including all the highest levels of the whole order of creation. This will be revealed, the power of the third month. This is the power of the month of Sivan, the third month, when God gave the Torah. This is revealed especially in the powerful day of the month, Kaf Chet. When there's the completion of 3 times 3 times 3, the day after that completion, that's the day that gives power to elevate the whole entire world. That's the day that the Rebbe came to America. That's the day that Moshiach really started to spread out the ideas of the oneness of God, even in the lowest parts of the world. And this can also be explained according to its connection to last week's Torah portion, Shlach, that we read just last Shabbat. What do we read in Shlach? We read that Moses was told by God, send spies, scouts. Send spies. But what do you mean send? God is saying, I'm not telling you to do it. If you want to do it, you can do it. Shalach lecha. God didn't say shalach anashim. He didn't say send spies. Shalach lecha. God said, use your discretion, Moses. I'm not telling you not to send them. I'm not telling you yes to send them. I'm telling you it's an okay idea. You want to do it, do it. You can do without it also. Right? I'm not telling you this. Moses sent scouts, Viaturu et Eretz Canaan, to scout out the land of Canaan. This refers to the spies, to the scouts that Moses sent to see the land of Israel in order to facilitate the entry of the Jewish people into the land of Israel and conquering it. Because that this was a shlichus made Moshe, because this came from Moses, but it was empowered by God. God said, I'm not commanding you. Whatever you decide, I agree with. So Moses decided, I want to send. So God said, okay, I agree. This is according to your decision, Moses. Your decision, your opinion. You want to send the scouts, you send them. Nevertheless, we see that even though the God agreed, but really the instigator of the whole thing, the originator, was Moses. Kodesh Baruch Hu Me'id, God just says that this is your opinion, Moses. Asher Inyanu Kolol, that generally this is Datcha. This comes from what's called the aspect of God, which is called Dat. Dat means, how do you say, realization, uniqueness. Muva and Gam, like it says that just like everybody's faces are not the same, everybody's personality, Deoteum Shavos, their personalities are different. Everybody's, how do you say, perception of reality and how they react to reality is a little bit different. But it says, therefore, God said to Moses, use your dot, and you can send your own personality, your own character, and according to that, send the spies, and certainly they'll succeed. That in fact, it did really help the Jews to go into the land of Israel in the days of Joshua, 40 years later. The pupil and the replacement of Moses. What is this in serving God? Just we'll start this and then we'll finish. Every single Jew has to conquer his part in the world. The part where he is, wherever he is in, wherever he comes in contract with. Tachtona lasot Eretz Yisrael, to make from this mundane world into a holy world, a meaningful world, a blessed world. Every Jew has this obligation. B'lashon Yadua, as the known saying is, lasot lo yitbarech dira b'tachtonim, to make for God a dira b'tachtonim, a dwelling place in this physical world. Dira b'tachtonim, and that's what we'll end today. What does it mean that God created the whole world in order that we should make for God a dwelling here? God wants a house to be here. This is where God wants to be revealed. That's why we're here in the world, to meet with these different challenges of the world, the difficulties, the obstacles, the confusion, etc. and etc. of the world. We don't have to go into too much into detail. The details are already, negative details are already here. And to transform the whole thing into what it really is, a miraculous, beautiful, blessed, joyous creation of the creator of the universe, dynamic, constantly. That's why we're here in the world, to make God a dwelling in this physical world, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Let's now do the Yom Yom for today. Among my grandfather's aphorism, this is the previous Rebbe speaking, so his grandfather was the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, the Rebbe Marash, Rebbe Shmuel. He said the intellect and the emotion structure of a Chassid, the way a Chassid thinks and the way he feels, this is determined by his first meeting with the Rebbe. Yechidut, the first meeting with the Rebbe, this is according to the essence character of the Chassid. The Rebbe prescribes an order of service appropriate to the nature of that Chassid and tells him what to do. That's the first meeting of the Chassid with the Rebbe. This determines, so to speak, molds out the whole character and empowers him to use that character in order to make the world a better place, serving the Creator and making the Creator revealed here. First meeting with the Rebbe. Have a good day with Moshiach. Now, God willing, 3 o'clock, we'll meet again and learn this week's Torah portion, Korach. Thank you for coming.